From KAMR Local 4 News, your local election headquarters. This is Politics Today with Jackie Kingston.
American history in the making. That is what we lived this week, regardless of the way you vote. We'll take a look at the announcement from the Speaker of the House of an impeachment inquiry into the President of the United States and have reaction from the President himself. If you live in the city of Amarillo and pay taxes, next year you'll be paying more. We'll tell you what you're buying. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Lots happened this week. We only have time to hit the highlights of everything that went on in Washington before we move on to everything that happened locally this week. But that is where I want to start, because even if you never watch news, if you're only watching this, in fact, because, you know, someone has like left your TV on and it's on the station, they threw away your remote, you need to know that we are living in history right now. Thursday, Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced that the Intelligence Committee will be taking the lead on the impeachment inquiry, focusing on the whistleblower allegations of wrongdoing by President Trump. The whistleblower claims that the president pressed the president of Ukraine in an effort to target former vice president and current presidential candidate Joe Biden and his son, Hunter.
The actions taken to date by the president have seriously violated the Constitution, especially when the president says, Article 2 says I can do whatever I want.
Here is how President Trump responded to the announcement of the inquiry.
It's a disgrace to our country. It's another witch hunt. Here we go again. It's Adam Schiff and his crew making up stories and sitting there like pious, whatever you want to call them. It's just really a disgrace. It's a terrible thing for our country. They can't do any work. They're frozen, the Democrats. They're going to lose the election. They know it. That's why they're doing it.
Here now, Texas Senator John Cornyn's response to the whistleblower complaint after it was released.
I think the most immediate concern I have is it's not based on firsthand knowledge. In other words, he says he heard this from other people, and that's hardly a whistleblower complaint that we're accustomed to getting from actual true whistleblowers. And the way it reads, it really reads more like a political diatribe and trying to project a narrative rather than reporting what we know the transcript of the conversation actually reveals.
We did reach out to Congressman Mac Thornberry for a statement as well. We were told he's focused right now on the NDAA conference and has no statement to give about the impeachment inquiry. Now for local news, the Amarillo City Council has passed a tax rate increase last week along with next year's budget. It means the tax rate will increase by 7.33%. That will equate to about $17.50 a year on a $100,000 home. That money will be used for new positions at the Amarillo Animal Management and Welfare and street repairs as well. The Amarillo Fire Department also getting a facelift thanks to the newly adopted budget by giving AFD an additional fire company at Fire Station 5. Politics Today's Kaylee Green reports how what the changes will be seen by APD and how a new fire station will be built as well.
AFD's Fire Station 5 on South Washington Street will soon get a total overhaul. It will be torn down and rebuilt and will then house an additional crew once completed.
Amarillo is a growing community. We're a growing city, and so in order to keep up with that, our first responders and our emergency services need to grow along with it.
Captain Kyle Joy says the fire department will hire 10 new firefighters and promote 11 others to give Fire Station 5 a full staff. Those promotions will consist of 2 captains, 3 lieutenants, and 6 drivers.
So this will take our approved numbers from 269 personnel to 279 personnel. So it's just a step in the right direction for our fire department.
The promotions will be made on October 9th.
So those guys have worked really hard. They've tested and come out high on the list, and they're being rewarded for that now. And they'll be a part of that progression in our fire department.
Captain Joy says the additional crew will improve the fire department's response capabilities and city coverage overall.
The ultimate goal is to serve the community. That's our goal in everything, is to help others. That's why we signed up for what we do. We're an accredited fire department, which along with that comes expectation and responsibility, and that responsibility is on us to be able to provide excellent customer service to the city.
During the construction period, the current crew from Fire Station 5 will be temporarily relocated to the old Fire Station 9 over on Western Street. The rebuild at Station 5 will be complete next fall. In studio, Kaylee Green, Politics Today. Jackie.
Kaylee, thank you. Captain Joy says with the addition of the new Fire Station 9 at Paramount and I-40, along with surrounding fire stations, there won't be a lack of coverage during Station 5's rebuild. The city also approved an item to further the progress on a Thompson Park pool replacement last week. They approved a professional services agreement with Shrickwell Rawlins for $425,000. Shrickwell Rawlins will provide the design of an aquatics facility to be located there at the park.
So we will be working through the design probably through August of next year. At that point, we'll turn it over to construction with an anticipated opening of Memorial Day 2021.
That item passed with a 4-1 vote. The Amarillo College Board of Regents also approved an increase to their tax rate for 2019. They approved an increase of 11.67%. That will amount to an increase of about $274 on a $100,000 home each month. The city of Borger has proposed the expansion and renovation of the historic aluminum dome. Politics Today's Crystal Martinez spoke with City of Borger representatives on that subject and has details.
Since acquiring the aluminum dome from the county last year, Borger city officials have been thinking of ways to enhance the structure.
The city has a source of income that the county doesn't.
New additions would include new lighting, updated restrooms, AC, and a waterproofing system. But they say they plan to keep the historic charm.
We're going to keep the historical aspect of the structure, and it will be entirely updated on the inside, as well as there will be additions to it.
City representatives say they want this to benefit Borger citizens without diving into their wallets. One way to do that is by using the hotel occupancy tax.
Hotel occupancy gives us a funding stream for convention and tourism related activities.
Currently, the city has two options. One is using the hotel occupancy tax fund, which gives them a budget of around $5 million. About $3 million would come from the hotel taxes, and more than $1 million would come from a venue tax, which would add a 2% tax to hotel rooms every night. Option 1 gives them a funding surplus of about $280,000.
The council's tasked us with finding a way to make this project happen without impacting the property tax rate of the citizens.
Option 2 would use the same funding but at a multi-purpose event venue. It would require an additional nearly $4 million. The city says they're unsure of where that money would come from. In Borger, Crystal Martinez, KAMR Local 4 News.
City representatives say they want citizens to stay in Borger instead of driving to other places for sources of entertainment, and they think this renovation will allow for just that. To look at the pictures of the proposed renovations, you can go to our website right now, myhighplains.com. Up next, we are headed to Austin as we wrap up Clean Energy Week. Find out how Texas is doing when it comes to creating new clean energy jobs and how we're working to depend less on non-renewable resources. I'm Jackie Kingston. You're watching KAMR Local 4 News and Politics Today. Last week, Clean Energy Week, and several groups are taking a look at Texas's energy outlook. Politics Today's Wes Rappaport has a snapshot of what's ahead for the industry.
I think it's really exciting.
As president of the Longhorn Energy Club, University of Texas grad student Jenny Sauer leads conversations on campus about the state's resources with business leaders, policymakers, and industry professionals.
Historical forms of energy and ongoing forms of energy like oil and gas are going to continue to be a pretty big part of the energy system for the foreseeable future. But there are also these cool new technologies.
That innovation matters. The governor's proclamation recognizing Clean Energy Week highlights a range of renewable resources, wind and solar, hydro and geothermal, as well as nuclear, natural gas, and carbon capture technologies. U.S. Energy Secretary and former Texas Governor Rick Perry champions that diversity. We talked about it last summer.
Making sure that these coal plants, these nuclear plants, as well as our gas plants and the renewables, are all part of the mix, and it will give us resiliency and reliability in our grid so that we have the power when we need it.
Texas added more than 10,000 clean energy jobs last year. Sauer is enthusiastic about the job prospects for the new generation entering that workforce.
There's no one set strategy that's going to work, and there's no one set policy that's going to work. So hopefully students are being trained to be nimble and flexible and to think strategically, and I think that is definitely a part of, the way classes are run here.
Governor Abbott's proclamation also cites the local nature of important clean energy jobs. He says they contribute to local economies because they're construction, installation, and maintenance jobs that can't be outsourced as they require on-site work. More than 20 counties in the Texas Panhandle have been listed as natural disaster areas or are eligible for emergency loans. Armstrong and Lipscomb County are in the areas that have been affected by flooding. Producers in some of the counties in that area that are not in danger of that are still eligible for those loans. The deadline to apply for those loans is coming up on May 6th of next year. The counties you see here are on the list for suffering losses due to recent drought-like conditions. Randall, Swisher, Hall counties, among others on that list. Producers in some of the counties that share borders with those areas can also apply for emergency loans. The deadline for that is May 11th of next year. You can find a full list of counties that are eligible to apply for those emergency loans on our website, myhighplains.com. A growing concern for Texas ranchers, state livestock investigators are warning of an increase in scams targeting cattle producers who buy or sell online or on social media. Investigators say scammers posing as prospective buyers will send a money order or a cashier's check with extra money after reaching a deal with the rancher. But they'll then cancel that deal and tell the rancher to return the purchase price, but keep the extra money for the trouble. Then that check turns out to be, you guessed it, counterfeit. Investigators say the suspects are believed to be overseas, primarily in Nigeria. If you're contacted about a deal you posted online, you should ask some questions to make sure that the buyer is legitimate.
Get a little nosy. Ask them who they usually buy their cattle from. How big is their place? What are they going to do with the cattle? And ask them who they know. That's because usually they're going to know someone that you know. And if they can't answer some of those questions, then that should be a red flag.
30 special rangers with the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association are commissioned by the Department of Public Safety to investigate crimes related to livestock. They tell us they're seeing an average of at least one scam targeting cattle ranchers every week. Last week, BorderReport.com began their tour of every mile of the United States-Mexico border. Coming up, we'll have some of their exclusive reporting and hear from people in a town in New Mexico who say the wall and immigration, they're not their top political issues. Throughout last week and throughout the next couple of days, we'll be bringing you exclusive reporting from along the United States-Mexico border. We caught up with our Border Report crew earlier this week. Our team from BorderReport.com is halfway through their 10-day journey. They've been taking us to different locations each day as they travel the entire length of the United States-Mexico border. Columbus is one of 3 places in New Mexico where people come and go across the border. It's also the spot Mexican rebel leader Pancho Villa attacked and killed U.S. soldiers and civilians. Anna Warnicki joins us now from the road. Anna, tell us where you are and what you're seeing from your vantage point.
Yeah, Jackie, we're in Texas right now, so we're in your neck of the woods. But I'm going to flip around our camera right now so you can kind of see we're just driving along the highway in Texas, very close to the border right now. But earlier when we were in Columbus, it was a very small town. It's very different from what we're seeing here. It was also the site of the Battle of Columbus, and local businesses that I spoke with say that the Battle of Columbus and that history with Mexico and that relationship is actually what drives nearly all of the tourism there. Right off Highway 9 in New Mexico is the small border town of Columbus. And one of the first faces to greet you is Irma.
Come on, follow me.
Irma Gonzalez has lived in Columbus for 30 years. She's the owner, operator, and head chef at Irma's. She says most of her customers are tourists.
The tourists, they do talk about Pancho Villa.
Mexican revolutionary leader Pancho Villa invaded Columbus in 1916. 18 Americans were killed in the raid. But now, over 100 years later, Irma says people on both sides of the border consider him a hero.
Because he's the only one that crossed the United States.
And just down the street at the Los Milagros Hotel, pictures of Pancho Villa covered the wall.
No one knows for sure why he raided. There's about 5 or 6 theories out there.
Philip Skinner owns the hotel. He says once a year, Columbus celebrates the Battle of Columbus with their neighbors across the border.
Palomas has a party for them, a dinner, and then those riders cross the border the next day. They get special permission to cross, and they ride up here, and there's a switching of flags.
Columbus sits 3 miles from the border. You can't actually see the fence from in town where I am right now, and residents say they don't really talk about the wall much either.
We don't talk about Trump. We don't talk about immigration.
Skinner says his biggest concern is the border shutting down.
Well, that would put me out of business, so that gets me, you know, the blood pressure up a little bit.
Skinner told me that actually the closest dentist to him is actually across the border. So he says a lot of U.S. residents actually go to Mexico for their regular checkups. For BorderReport.com tour, I'm Anna Warnicki.
Anna, thank you for your hard work this week. We have enjoyed all the reports from BorderReport.com. Safe travels to you. Also on our tour, reporter Sandra Sanchez met young U.S. citizens who attend public school, but they live in Mexico and they cross the border each day to get to class. Read about that unique arrangement that goes back for decades at BorderReport.com. All right, Texans, pop quiz. You ready? Who was the first Secretary of State for the Republic of Texas? You know? If you said Stephen F. Austin, or if you were thinking it, 20 points to Ravenclaw. The current Secretary of State for the state of Texas right now is Ruth Hughes. She's very new, so if you didn't know that, now you know. Coming up, she's taking time to sit down with Politics Today's Wes Rappaport, and we have that interview next. We are 37 days out from the next election here in the Lone Star State. This will be the first statewide election for the newly minted Secretary of State. She tells Politics Today's Wes Rappaport that she's making civic engagement a priority, and she hopes to use social media to get more people to vote. Here's Wes's conversation with Texas Secretary of State Ruth Hughes.
Why should we be civically engaged, and why is this upcoming election important?
Not everyone is aware that we actually have an election coming up this year, November 5th. With a lot of constitutional amendments, and so the deadline to register for those elections is October 7th. And so I'm really hoping that people know that, and if they're eligible to vote, that they register to vote by that October 7th deadline, and that they go to votetexas.gov to get some more details on what will be on the ballot if they would like to look into that, be better informed before they go to the polls. But we know that an active and engaged citizenry is really essential to our democracy, so we want to make sure that everyone that's eligible registers to vote.
What's the difference between getting people registered and actually compelling them to go out and vote?
At a local level, there's a lot of efforts in that respect. I mean, certainly we just want to make sure that people know their rights and they know that they have an opportunity to put their voices out there, make them be heard, and to shape the future of Texas in a way that reflects our values. And so it's an important opportunity. It's an important act of civic engagement. And so we do our best to promote it, to make sure people know that those opportunities are out there, and then ultimately to also facilitate whether it's polling places or early voting or many of the things that our local election officials do across the state to really facilitate the ability to vote and to get out and vote.
You get a year and a half to do the job at least until lawmakers weigh in and make a decision. That's sort of unlike your predecessor. Is that more pressure or less pressure in kind of the grand scheme of the responsibilities?
As far as that goes, I feel like I show up every day and do the best job I can do in the time that I have to do it, and I'm really proud and honored to serve, and that the governor has entrusted me with this position. I know that it's a very important time, and so I'm really committed to doing everything we can do to make sure that there is a lot of faith in the process, and that we get it right, and that we really secure that integrity of our election process. So I'm not focusing too much on a year and a half from now, but every day I know that we're going to make sure that we do the best we can to make sure Texans have a lot of faith in our system, and that they really help us to continue to shape the future of our state by having their voices heard.
What are you working on from a statewide perspective to encourage more engagement?
We certainly have a lot of social media outreach. We try to take these opportunities to get the word out as much as we can. I've been visiting some high schools to encourage students that are turning 18 to go ahead and register to vote if they're eligible, making sure that they appreciate the importance of it. Studies have showed the earlier in life that you begin to vote, the more likely you are to be a longtime voter. So I think that there's a lot of value in promoting that, and we're continuing to work at a local level as far as making sure they have the resources that they need to get the word out. It's just important to really take an opportunity to vote.
You can hear the rest of that interview on our website, myhighplains.com. Texans must be registered to vote by October 7th to vote in the November election, so get to it. Make sure you are registered. We're wrapping things up after this. This is Gertie. She is meteorologist Brittany Trumpy's dog, and she was running through the studio. So if you saw her earlier in one of the shots, you were not wrong. There is a dog in the studio. And it's a good reminder that if you are feeling a little overwhelmed by everything that's happening in politics, because there is a lot going on, spend some time with a pup. Go outside, turn the TV off, and enjoy Unplug for a little bit. It'll be there when you get back. Don't forget that you can follow us on Facebook, social media, and Twitter, everything like that, and on our website, myhighplains.com. Cuddle your dog, make sure you're registered to vote. We'll see you back here next week. Gertie, you did good. You did.